Well, I hope that you've had a good day today. I hope you'll have a great rest of the week. I hope you had a great holiday, and now everybody's looking forward to the new year. And I definitely hope we're all thinking how we can be better for God this new year and how we can grow closer to Him. That ought to be on our minds every day. But if it hasn't been, what a better time to start than now. We don't have any announcements, so we can go ahead and get right into it tonight. Job chapter 29 is where we left off last time. So we're in Job chapter 30 for the next few minutes tonight. Job chapter 30. So if you haven't read that, maybe pause the video, go read that, and we'll be ready to discuss. We'll start in verse 1. But now they laugh at me, men who are younger than I, whose fathers I have disdained to set with the dogs of my flock. Now remember, in Job chapter 29, Job reflected on the past when things were great with Job. Job was this person of importance. He had a great role in society. Remember all the people that would hang around the gate. You remember what would happen when Job would make his presence known. Everybody's eyes would go to Job. They would put their hands over their mouth. They were locked in. They wanted to know what Job said because Job was a wise man, and what Job said, you did. You didn't question it. That's how Job was viewed. But now he's mocked and he's ridiculed because he's sitting at the ash heap outside of the city, and people just constantly look down upon Job. They laugh at him, he says in verse 1. They taunt him. Remember, we've already read some people spit on him. They hiss at him. Remember, we've read that before. These people that taunt Job and mock Job, that only adds to his affliction. Because it's not like these people are just low in the social class spectrum. These people are the lowest of the lows. So you had a man who was of great importance, and now he's being mocked by the lowest of the low. What could I gain from the strength of their hands, men whose vigor is gone? Just how low are these people, where these are the people that are constantly looking for food? They don't know where to find it. They're scavenging around for their next meal. They're poor. Through want and hard hunger, they gnaw the dry ground by night in waste and desolation. They pick stalwart and the leaves of bushes and the roots of the broom tree for their food. I mean, look at it. These people, Job says, they scavenge around for food, and they're stuck with eating from the stalwart tree and the roots of the broom tree. They are driven out from human company. They shout after them as a thief. Well, when these people that are mocking Job, when they enter a city, everybody in the city just is looking at them, and they don't trust them. They don't want them around, so they instantly just get rid of them. You might think of the Disney movie Aladdin. You remember when Aladdin comes in the city, you know, everybody doesn't want Aladdin there because Aladdin's a thief. Well, these people, they may or may not be thieves, but when they enter into a city, regardless of not having committed the action yet, people just assume that they're thieves and they want them gone. These people, they're not liked by society. That's what we gain from what we've read in Job chapter 30 so far. In the gullies of the torrents they must dwell, in holes of the earth and of the rocks. So look, these people, their only shelter is in caves and in the crevices of the rocks. That's their shelter. Among the bushes they bray under the nettles as they hurtle together, a senseless, a nameless brood. They have been wiped out of the land. So Job just kind of tops off their description by saying they're nameless. Now, I think we all recognize that in the Old Testament, the names of people meant something. It told you something about that person. A person's nature was tied to that name. So by these people not having a name, they're ultimately deemed what? They're deemed worthless. And these are the people that mock Job. We see how that might add to his suffering and affliction. And now I have become their song. I am a byword to them. They abhor me. They keep aloof from me. They do not hesitate to spit at the sight of me, because God has loosed my cord and humbled me. They have cast off restraint in my presence. Why are these people mocking Job? Well, who's the cause of Job's suffering? Well, in Job's mind, God is the cause of his suffering. So God is the reason that these lowly people, these poor people, they mock Job and add to his suffering. On my right hand the rabble rise. They push away my feet. They cast upon me their ways of destruction. They break up my path. They promote my calamity. They need no one to help them. As though a wide breach they come. Amid the crash they roll on. Terrors are turned upon me. My honor is pursued as by the wind, and my prosperity has passed away like a cloud. So are these people doing a good job at aggravating Job and torturing Job? Yes, they're doing a great job. Job says, on my right hand the rabble rise. Well, if his right side indicates strength, they've taken away his strength. They push away my feet. So if Job is on a path and he's trying to get away from these people, he cannot get away from them because they push his feet. They cast upon me their ways of destruction. They break up my path. Now, by them breaking up Job's path, we've seen they push his feet, so Job can't get away. But by breaking up his path, guess what happens? Nobody can get to Job to aid Job. These people act as Job's enemy. As though, he says in verse 14, as we just read, as though a wide breach they come, and amid the crash they roll on. Verse 16, and now my soul is poured out within me. Well, notice they attacked the right side of Job. They took his strength. Job no longer has any more strength. It doesn't seem like to keep going. Days of affliction have taken hold of me. The night and the pain that gnaws me takes no rest. With great force my garment is disfigured. It binds me about like the collar of my tunic. God, in Job's mind, is the cause of his suffering. Just how bad has Job's suffering become? Well, remember before, Job is having trouble sleeping at night because he has these night terrors like we've seen before, but now it seems that Job can't sleep at all. And who's the cause of that? Well, God, as we've already seen. His bones hurt. He gets no rest. It's like he's been clothed and God has grabbed him by his clothes, and he's sitting there and he's pulling the clothes tighter and tighter and tighter on Job, where it's just sucking all his strength out of him and adding to his pain. God has cast me into the mire, and I have become like dust and ashes. I cry to you for help, and you do not answer me. I stand, and you only look at me. We've seen that Job struggles with his faith a little bit. This right here kind of heightens that. Think about that for a second. I cry to you for help, and you do not answer me. I stand, and you only look at me. Now, I'd be willing to say some people, besides Job, obviously, people that we know, maybe even ourselves, have went through some very difficult suffering in our life. And I'd be willing to say that some people have felt just like that. They've prayed, and it doesn't seem like God is anywhere to be found. It doesn't seem like their prayers are reaching the ears of God. And they start asking some pretty tough questions. Those questions, they stretch their faith. What's Job questioning? Well, it seems like Job is questioning the goodness of God. Is God really good if I'm suffering and praying to Him and trying to get relief, and He's watching me suffer, but He's doing nothing about it? I think if we had a time of question and answer right now, and I asked what everybody else thought about that, I bet some people would say, yeah, but you know what? By God allowing a person to go through, they'll come out better in the end. Those are good things. When we do suffer, if we'll learn from our suffering and we will lean on God, in the end we will come out stronger. In some way, whether we can see that or not, we'll come out better. But for the person that's actually suffering, it doesn't change the fact that that hurts if that's their view of God. You have turned cruel to me, Job says in verse 21. With the might of your hand you persecute me. So God, all that power and might that you have, you use to hurt me instead of using it to help me. God is viewed here in Job chapter 30 as Job's enemy. Now we know from the beginning of the book that Job's enemy is actually the Satan, but Job thinks that God is the Satan. You lift me up on the wind, you make me ride on it, and you toss me about in the roar of the storm. You put me through it, God, for I know that you will bring me to death and the house of appointed for all living. Job wants a response from God, but it seems that God is just going to continue to afflict him, and Job is going to die. Verse 24. Yet does not one in a heap of ruin stretch out his hand and in disaster cry for help? Job saying, God, hold on. This person that's in a heap of ruins, you would think that that person could cry out and another person might extend their hand to help them get out of their trouble and misfortune, but not you, God. You use your hand to hurt me. That's what we've already seen. Job says, Did not I weep for him whose day was hard? Was not my soul grieved for the needy? I thought about others, Job says. When they weren't doing good, they were on my heart. I had my hand out for those people. But when I hoped for good, evil came. And when I waited for light, darkness came. In other words, we see here that Job seems to be saying, God, you're not acting in the right way. When people were in pain and people were suffering, you could learn a bit from me, God. What did I do? I helped those people, but not you. When I was low, God, and I thought about good, only evil came. When I waited for light, darkness came. My inward parts are in turmoil and never still. Days of affliction come to meet me. Well, Job has already said his day is filled with many terrors because of the pain that he's in, because God continues to afflict him. Because of all of that, psychologically, we can't even imagine the emotional pain that Job is going through. So his stomach is obviously rolling and never still. Job says in verse 28, I go about darkened, but not by the sun. I stand up in the assembly and cry for help. Look at my skin. You know, my bones hurt. My bones hurt, Job says, because God, you hurt my bones. You put me in more pain. You're the reason I don't sleep at night. But my skin also peels and it's black. But you know why? It's not because I'm burnt by the sun. It's because, God, you've given me this great skin disease. I am a brother of jackals and a companion of ostriches. So what do? I lay here every day in pain and I cry out. I moan and I weep. I sound like the jackal and the ostrich. My skin turns black and falls from me, and my bones burn with heat. My lyre is turned to mourning and my pipe to the voice of those who weep. What kind of, or how is Job depicted in Job chapter 30? Certainly not a guy that's envied by us. Job is pictured as a man with no hope, because the one that he thought he could turn to for hope is actually his greatest enemy in his mind. So right now, in chapter 30, we get a picture of Job in his present condition, his present state. So chapter 29, Job reflected on the past. Now Job is giving us, allowing us a view of his present state. And in chapter 31, Job is going to tell God that he is innocent. And he is going to do that by listing a number of sins. And Job is going to say, I'm not guilty of those. And you know what, God? If I am guilty of those, then you need to curse me. So what we're going to see in chapter 31 is Job is going to try to force God's hand. Remember, Job has gotten to the point that he thinks he's just going to end up dying. I mean, that's his fear. His fear is he's going to die, and God is never going to reverse all that has happened. He's not going to, make Job's innocence known to all people. He's not going to acknowledge Job's innocence. That's Job's greatest fear. Now, what we've seen from other parts of the book is, no, he think, God is a God of righteousness and justice. Righteousness and justice, those are the foundation of his throne. So God will do the right thing. Well, here's where we get Job's fear of God and God being the righteous and great God kind of mushed in. Job is going to try in chapter 31, like we said, to force God's hand. He's going to say, you know what, God, I'm innocent of these sins. Now, that's either going to make God activate a curse on Job, which Job will say, hey, if I'm not guilty of these sins, then this is how you need to punish me. So if God activates those curses, everyone will know that Job isn't innocent. But if he doesn't, he's going to have to clear Job's name. He's going to have to respond, or he's going to have to remain silent. And if he remains silent, then everybody is going to know that Job is innocent. Because remember, we said in the ancient Near East, how do you win a dispute in court? Well, you reduce the other one to silence. So next week, we'll jump into chapter 31. Again, I hope everybody is doing well. And if we can pray for you or help you in any way, please just let us know. I can't wait to see everybody Sunday. God bless.